Welcome, Karen, to the Fempreneur podcast. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here.
And where in the world are you right now?
I am in Billings, Montana, so I think directly south of you.
Yes, and so you have been to Calgary, so you know what this area is all about.
Oh my gosh, we have been through Calgary several times. We love it there. We lived in Alaska, so we would drive through. The first time in the winter, and rush hour traffic in the winter in Calgary is something no one should have to miss. You should all try it.
That's hilarious. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's an experience for sure.
Yeah, I think it was the
Right.
biggest thing I driven through at the time. It was in the 80s, so long before you even, and it was a huge city, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is scary in the winter in the dark.
Yeah. Okay. And have you lived your whole life in Billings or in Montana?
So brief story, I grew up in South Dakota, right by Mount Rushmore, and then we lived in Alaska for 20 years. We went there for one, and then we fell in love and we stayed for 20. My husband's heart is still there. And then we moved to pardon me, to Montana about 20 years ago. So now this is the home of our heart.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, so canvascreekteams.com is where you'll find everything about Karen, but she's going to dive right in and tell us about why she started her business, how she started her business. And I'm just so excited to get to know you, Karen. So start wherever you want with that story.
Great, thank you for that. So I had left the corporate world. I was I had a really cool job. I was traveling the country training business women in a direct sales company. And one day I was like, this is boring. I'm getting to see all the cool places in the world and eat all the good food and be with all the cool people. I should do something else. We make those decisions sometimes. And so I left that job for absolutely the wrong job. I was like, this is going to be it. I will love this. And I was so wrong. Oh my gosh. And Lindsay, we owned a ceramic studio at the time, that my daughter and I was in absolute desperation. What am I supposed to do? This studio is not going to make enough money for two families. And who am I supposed to be in the world? And so I went to the studio and I watched two people painting on a cup. And I was like, well, dang it, we are never going to make enough money like that. But what if I had teams paint together? And I love teams, I love leadership. And so I thought of this team building idea of having people paint together, do collaborative art on Tuesday. On Thursday, I tested it with my family and it blew our minds. We're all like, this is incredible. This is your new thing. On Saturday, we tested it with a group of friends at our studio. And on Tuesday, I did my first paid event. So in 1 week, I went from what the hell am I supposed to be doing in the world to, oh my gosh, here we are.
Oh my goodness. Okay, that's fantastic. I was so curious to know how this all started, so that makes sense. That's really great. And so tell us, I guess, kind of tell us now, like fast forward to now, and then we're going to go back into the story. But tell us now what you do and how you do it, and how you find, people who need this thing that you offer. And while you're talking, I'm just going to grab my camera. So keep talking.
Thank you. Yeah, so what we do is collaborative art with teams, and we specialize with corporate teams. We love to be at their retreats because people are always having a lot of fun at retreats and they're trying to bond one another. But even more exciting, we have built our product so that we go into schools and work with freshmen and sophomore leaders and help them to develop a leadership solution for their school, that they take this idea, this is how we can improve our environment, and run with it.
Oh my gosh.
Right. So all of the time, all of these groups that we work with, they do collaborative art. So that painting on the wall behind me is an example of that. All those paintings are. Four people stand side by side. They're not artists. They don't get directions about how to do the art, and they have to figure it out. And it's hilarious to watch people do this. It's exciting. And in about 13 minutes, people are like, oh, we know what to do. And when they're done, they're a really cool team. So, I mean, that's a really brief view of what I do, but it's so fun.
Right. So you have been doing this for how long now?
Yeah, great question. 14 years, right? That's like record breaking. We even survived COVID. That was a deal.
That's where I wanted to go next. So tell me about the challenges you've had to overcome. Like tell us about a few of them that you maybe challenges you faced where you were like, okay, this might be it. I might have to wrap it up. Like, how did you pivot? How did you maneuver in those situations, and what were those situations?
Yeah, great question. So the first thing was even just starting this business. We actually were new in Billings. I'd taken the corporate job and moved here and then traveled, so nobody knew me. So the first thing was just getting known in a place where people were like, "Who is that? And what is she doing?" And it sounds kind of weird. And so then what I did, because we're a business that throws a little paint now and then, I one day I ended up with paint on a pair of blue jeans, and there was a marketer in that event, and he said, "Oh, that could be your trademark." And so I put paint on the bottom of my blue jeans, on like right below my knee, on every pair of jeans I wore, and I would wear them everywhere I went. And one day I was walking through a hotel and I heard some guy say to his friend, "I think that's that Canvas Creek lady." And I was like, "Oh, it's so working."
Oh my god, the trademark is paint on the jeans.
Right. And
The
so
same
that,
spot, kind of like just below the knee, you said?
yes, just there were just swooshes of paint, like it just kind of happened. And
Okay.
I walked into Macy's one day in Dallas. I was working with the team down there, and I was wearing those pants. And they're like, "We want to do this. We want to buy those. Will you, do you want to have this whole trademark brand?" And I did not. But not too long after that, Macy's started selling pants with paint on them, and they charged a ton. I should have
Oh,
done
oh my gosh, that's awesome.
it. It's not funny.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, good for you. So do you have a marketing background? Like, tell us about pre-ceramic studio Karen. Like, what other things have you done?
So I actually have a book called What's Next that tells the story. Lindsay, I was so shy that I could not talk to three people at once. Yes, and I don't have a marketing background. I was told, I think a lot of your people will appreciate this. I was told by a teacher when I was a junior in high school that I was too stupid to go to college.
Oh,
Right. And I had come to her and said, "I'm so excited. I'm going to go to Augustana. I want to study nursing." And she said, "It's a terrible idea. You're not smart enough to do that. You will fail miserably." So I carried that for a very, very long time. I made some crazy decisions proving I wasn't stupid. But I carried that with me for a long time. And now I'm able to look back and realize that she didn't say it well, but she was right. Had I become a nurse, there'd be a dead body on every shift because I am not interested in detail. But so the story there is that I was shy, and I don't have a marketing background. I have a figure it out background. So just like so many of your people, I tried one thing and then I tried the next thing and I figured out what I could learn here and I took that over there. And I just kept learning and kept meeting people and kept challenging myself to do the next hardest thing and to watch what other people were doing that was really successful for them and see how I could incorporate that into my life. And so that's what I still do. I watch what other people are doing and I'm like, I can do that bigger, better, just like them.
oh man, I can so relate to that, Karen. I am the same way. I watch what other people are doing, and then I'm like, oh, I can do that bigger and better. Like, and then I'm in a phase of that right now. I mean, I kind of go through phases with that where I really feel called to do that, and then other times I just feel kind of more called to like shut the world out and stay focused on bettering and improving what I'm already doing. And then, of course, just bettering and improving my clients' businesses through working with them. But yeah, summer is always a phase of that for me where I just feel like I'm looking around more, I'm seeing more things and getting more new ideas. Are you like that with the seasons? Do you find you have different ways of being depending on the season?
Yes, absolutely. Because we're team building, there are times when people don't team build. Like I always have to remind myself this in the States, nobody does team building in an election year in April and May because you've been paying taxes and there's all the election stuff. And oh my gosh, it's so scary. And
Okay.
so, pardon me. This year, I just had to remind myself that this is what we do. And so I settled in and thought about what is it I'm really trying to accomplish? How do I want to do this? And just reveled in that moment of peace because we don't always have that as entrepreneurs, right?
Yes. So true. I love the way you've reframed those sort of quieter times in your business to be sort of a sign to go inward and to really just work on yourself and work on your practices and whatever, like streamline some systems or whatever. And I do like that too. I feel like summer is that for me because a lot of times um, I don't really want to bring on a new client or two in the summer because I want to better myself and do all the things and go camping and be on the road and my son just graduated, so I'm in this new phase of life where I can be anywhere, like, actually.
Mm,
So, yeah, so I broke up with my boyfriend a couple months ago, almost 3 months ago now, and I am now like I'm just not putting roots down anywhere. I don't want to do that. So I'm kind of in a phase where, to your point about just seeing what other people are doing and making it better. I'm like in a big phase of that right now. And because I have the time and I have the space, like
right. And it's a little bit scary, right?
yeah.
But it's also a little bit exciting because you get to be whoever you want to be. And now you have to figure out who that is.
Yes, and I love how you said when you moved to Billings. I can relate to that. When you moved to Billings, that was the phase when you started a new business. Because when I moved, I've actually never actually lived in Calgary. Actually, I've always lived in Cochrane, which is just northwest of Calgary. I'm not sure if you know where that is, but I moved there and immediately started a new business. And it was so great to be able to legitimately say to people, I'm new to town. I have this new business. Tell me
Right.
about the town. Tell me who else I should be talking to. Like, I think that there is so much value in moving that a lot of people don't realize.
Right. Being the new person is exciting. You
Yeah.
get to figure out where, your brand new favorite restaurant and your favorite people. And people don't have a preconceived notion of, oh my gosh, here she goes again, doing that crazy thing. You get to be this, whoever you want to be. And if it doesn't work, you get to shuffle that off and do the next thing.
Yeah, you get to really reinvent yourself, but also just the way you engage with people is so genuinely curious because you really don't know, you don't know a lot of people, you don't really know how to go about growing your business in that particular community, and it's a great excuse to be that. Like, I'm naturally that person that's, some people would call me creepy, but I'm a little bit like, "Hi, how are you? What's happening here?" Like, but when you're new to town, like if you don't do that, your other option is feel lonely and feel like you don't have a community, and that's not good. That's why I started the YYC Fempreneurs community and this podcast, because I didn't want women to stay in that sort of stuck, like alone phase. Because obviously in business, we have to go out there and have conversations like the one you and I are having now, and we have to be curious. So tell us a bit more about how you've grown Canvas Create teams. How did you go from, the lady with the paint on her jeans to, having all these people know about you and the online presence that's so fantastic? We're going to talk about the book in a bit, but right now I want to know more of just the ways that you've grown this.
Okay, I just have to tell you a really short story first because it's going to fit what you're doing. Yesterday, I took my grandson to lunch, and the person in front of us in line was buying lunch for the people behind him. And I thought maybe he'll buy our lunch, and he did not. But I said, but my grandson is very into being an entrepreneur. He's 15, he is going to do this. And I said to this person, hey, we're going to talk about business and doing good in the world. Do you want to sit down and have lunch with us? And this man owns 3 businesses, multimillionaire, kindest, smartest businessman I think I've ever talked to. And he sat down and had lunch with us. We have new friends. He's mentoring my grandson. And so the reason I tell you this is when you're new in town, you have to just walk up to somebody and say, do you want to have lunch with me? Because you never know who you're going to meet and what you're going to learn. And that's truly, so that's going to segue into how I built this business. That's what I've done all along. I leaned into networking really hard in my town, just going to Chamber of Commerce, going to Big Sky VA, which is our economic development corporation, and finding out who the people that mattered were, who the people that had teams were, and just started making friends. And I found the faster I made friends, the faster my business grew. And as female entrepreneurs, it really is easy for us to be friends with people. Women are always looking for friends. I think it might be a little bit harder for men to do that. With women, we're like, yeah, let's talk about kids and let's talk about diets. And there's all these things we can just launch. So I just very much have leaned into networking and taking really good care of people. If I meet you today, I'm going to send you a note in the morning and tell you how great it was to meet you. And I'm going to try my very hardest to introduce you to somebody else. So it's not just you and me in the conversation, it's somebody else that you can grow from and that can vouch for me and say, yeah, she's okay if you decide to do business with me. And I know that's what you're about, is just that connection, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's good. But Billings, Montana is not big enough to sustain a business like mine. So I had to get out into the world. Well, there is nobody in New York City who is thinking at this moment, we should see if there is a little old gray haired lady from Billings, Montana who does team building. I bet she'd be fabulous. So, so that's kind of where the idea of Monday videos came out. Every Monday, I put out a video that's like, Happy Monday. And I talk about what's going on in my life and how they can look at that, how they can reframe that for their lives. And it's a minute and 25 seconds of just happiness and just look at this way to look at the world. And I will tell you what, I get business or some kind of a powerful call because of those videos every single week. It has been the best business builder, just being my goofy self and not even talking about my business, just talking about the world. But there are
Yeah.
people now in New York who are like, that gray haired lady from Montana? She seems cool. We should call her. It just, I had to reframe what that looked like.
Wow. That's brilliant. Just
Well,
30
thank
seconds
you.
of mundane happiness.
So we have a friend in Alaska. I just love him. And he, about every 3 weeks, he calls and says, Can you stop with the happiness? Just dial it down a little. And I'm like, You're watching.
Oh my goodness. So how many years have you been doing the Monday videos?
That is a great question. Probably 7 years on and off. I was hit and miss for a while. And now for the last, since COVID, I've been every single Monday because people need somebody to come into their life and say, you matter to me. And here's a way to reframe. If you got some crap going on in your life, let's reframe that.
Yeah. So did you find that during COVID you had to take a bit of a break from it just for because you like
Mm.
how did you manage to do that during COVID?
Right. Well, so there's a little sad story here, but it'll be okay. So on March 12th, every single event on my calendar dropped off in the morning. People kept calling, "We're canceling our event. We're canceling our event." And I was like, "What in the world is going on?" I'd not been paying attention because I was at my mom's deathbed. We knew she was passing away. It was a little bit of a celebration. All of her friends were coming to see her and tell her goodbye. And I'm like, what am I going to do? I don't have a business anymore, and I'm not going to have my mom. And it was crushing. So we weren't home. We were in Phoenix. After she passed, we drove home, and I sat on the couch with the remote control and Netflix and a big old tub of ice cream. This will be my new life. And after about 3 days of that, because that's all I could stand, I thought, um, this cannot be my story. This cannot be how it ends. And honestly, I thought, by damn, I'm going to come out of this in better shape, and I'm going to come out of this with a better business. And so I just dug in to all of those moments in my life where I'd had to say, by damn, we are going to change this, and I'm going to figure out my next, and I'm going to help other people do it. So I put together a webinar called By Damn and offered it free to businesses. And chambers of commerce would have me jump on and talk to all their people. And we just talked about pivoting and reframing and what you could still do in the world. And that was a huge reputation builder for me, but it also was just a huge reminder for me that I was in charge. Even when I didn't feel like I was in charge, I was in charge. And I think as female entrepreneurs, we have to remind ourselves of that sometimes we feel like the world is running ahead of us. We get to decide how we're going to use that in our businesses. And that's what I did during COVID and came out much stronger business, new book, and a new reputation.
Wow. Okay, now we're talking about the book. Perfect segue. Okay,
Okay.
so you had been doing the Monday videos. You took a bit of a pause because of your mom and just dealing with some major stuff, and your business
Right.
kind of like took a little bit of a bump in the road. And then you're back. You wrote a book. Like, tell us more about that phase and the book and how the book came to be.
Yeah, great question. So I wrote What's Next pre-pandemic, and What's Next helps entrepreneurs to think about, do I want to do this? Am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? And it just tells my story of always trying a next. Well, that's not really good to walk into a corporation and say to their people, you should read my book and leave your job, right? So
I don't have any corporate gigs either. I totally feel that.
right, right. And so I thought, I think we should clean this up a little bit. And I also looked at the world and I thought, what we need right now is quiet leadership. And so I took a lot of the leadership lessons that I had been teaching people, but I hadn't really packaged, and took those leadership lessons and put them in a book. And all of the chapters are 3 to 7 minutes maximum to read. They're metaphors and soliloquies and just stories of my life that sometimes will be like, now, how is she going to turn this into a leadership lesson? But I'm telling you, if you look at your world and you look at the times where you have leaned in and you've said, I'm learning something here, it's that quiet leadership moment where you learn things from people that you never would have expected to be teaching you a leadership lesson. Like one of them is my dog constantly wanting to throw the ball. And I'm like, that's what a good leader does. They're just, here's the ball, you throw it, I'll bring it back. And you just, here's the same message over and over and over. So
Okay.
quiet leadership really, what I want people to understand from quiet leadership is that you need to act more than you tell, and you need to celebrate more than you correct, and you just need to look at the world in a way so that you can listen to all of the people. Listen to the person who's being really quiet in the back corner because they probably have really big lessons to teach you.
Oh my gosh, I just found the podcast title. How do you like this, Karen? So, what is quiet leadership and how to act more than you tell in your marketing?
Oh my gosh, you no wonder you are so good at what you do because you are so good at what you do.
Well,
That's
you
good.
just said that though. So I just literally took
That's
it.
communication, right? That's communication. You have to do something with what you hear.
Yes, because this is so exciting because I love how you're talking about the jeans and wearing the jeans and being the brand, and then also just like what you just said about your Monday videos, and then you created this free webinar that you were pitching to these different organizations and offering to like you act more than you tell, and that's really I've never really heard it framed like that before. I love it.
Okay, I also had not thought about that's what I was doing, but I was acting more than I told. Yeah, and it gave people permission because then when they started getting back together, they're emailing me and they're like, "We need you because we know you now, and we need you to come help us because post COVID, we needed some team building. We still do."
Yes, and this is the thing that I try to help my fempreneurs do. They're often really shy online and they're overthinking everything and they're like, I don't look good enough and I don't like the sound of my voice and blah, blah, blah. So they're not able to do all these things that you're doing because they're literally stopped. They're in their own way. And I just help them kind of get out there more. But I've never really positioned it that way and or even pitched it to them as like, hey, here's what I'm gonna do as your coach. It's gonna be this and this is why. So like you've just helped me have a huge aha moment. So thank you.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad, and I think that it is such a good thing to remember that it does. I am not the prettiest person out there. I've got gray hair. I'm old, and nobody cares. No one has ever said a mean thing on one of my videos. And so that should give your entrepreneurs grace and courage that I get out there and I cough in the middle of my video. So they're one take wonders. Whatever you see is what you get. Because when you show up to the business, that's who you're going to be. So you might as well be that online. Be who you are when you're going to show up. With a little bit more. I might be a little over the top on the videos.
All right. So where can my fempreneurs find your Monday videos? Or is that LinkedIn? Is it YouTube? Is it both? Like
Yeah, excellent. They can drop me an email to, or just go on canvascreekteams.com and
great.
jump on the contact page there. We have signups for the Monday videos. They also can send me an email. If they send me an email and say, hey, I heard you, I'll send them a copy of what's next, which will really help propel them in their businesses, I hope. So free copy of
You're
what's
gonna
next.
send them a book?
Yes, I'm that nice. Act more than you tell.
So I actually have a question about the book. So you wrote the book and then did you kind of write a slightly different version of the book? So you kind of have two books?
So I don't want to scare you, but I'm an uneducated woman from the Midwest, and I don't like grammar, but I have 5 books.
Oh, okay, okay, awesome. Okay, so I'm still trying to figure out how many books you have here. So five.
Yes,
Okay,
I have five,
five.
but two are really good because I learned how to write. And then, so what's next and quiet leadership really they're so good for entrepreneurs. The other ones are good, but you can see that I'm learning how to do what I'm doing. I also sold 10 of the first book. I don't know why I thought I should do this again because I sold 10. I'm like, oh, you're successful.
But don't you
Myself.
find that writing a book is not about anyone but yourself ultimately? Like I know we write a book for someone and we picture the ideal client or the person, but like don't you think that even if no one reads it, it was like a life-changing cathartic experience for you to write that book?
Oh my gosh, I know myself so much better, and it made me take time to realize, pardon me, who I was and what I was trying to do
Yeah,
and what I wanted other people to see. So, oh my gosh, your people all should write a book, and they should have you help them because doing it without a coach is hard. You should have. So when I had a coach that helped me, it was amazing. So yes,
okay,
people should write a book. Write your
okay.
book. Write your book.
Write your
It doesn't
damn
have
book.
to be perfect.
That's
Yes.
that's the name of my new book. It's called "It's Time to Write Your Damn Book, Woman." That's like the title. So yeah, I'll put the link to that one in the show notes for those of you who haven't heard of my new book. But it is the 4-month guide to writing and self-publishing and marketing your own book. So, and I have had 4 women that I know of for sure so far actually complete the steps and get their books out there since I wrote it. So even if only 4 women use the book, I feel like I've already achieved what I set out to achieve. So
That is incredible. And I promise you, you guys, that everybody I know who's written a book feels better about what they're offering the world. And they have this really cute calling card to be able to say, here's my book. And people will introduce you as, she's an author. Even when I wasn't a very good author, people would say, she's an author. And I'm like, you might as well own it. Write the damn book, woman.
yeah, yeah, for sure. So you said that if people send you an email, you'll send them a copy of your book.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh my gosh. And then do you okay, so you obviously do speaking gigs as well as your Canvas Creek teams like events, like leadership events. What else do you do? What other kind of things do you get up to business wise, personally? Tell us more about yourself.
So you are just so good at asking questions about me, my favorite subject. Lindsay, so I do the team building. I'm really passionate about that, especially working in schools. And now what we're doing, I've always wanted to do it, but now we're doing it with a whole new focus. We're training people how to do Canvas Creek. So people become a certified coach, and then they get to go offer this to their clients and in their schools, which is really our new push. And it's really it's too cool of a process to not get it out there more than just the amount of times I could do it. So that's the big thing. Speaking is big. And then I coach 2 to 3 companies at a time, but they have to be really willing to put up with my schedule.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So you
But
don't do a
training
lot of
other
one-on-one coaching then with like entrepreneurs. It's more for corporations and
Yes. Yeah, yeah,
okay.
I really do focus in on corporations. The book, What's Next, is really my answer to coaching entrepreneurs because I gave you all of my best stuff in there. I think it
Right.
even talks about painting your pants.
Okay. Well, I'm going to be reading both of those books, What's Next and Quiet Leadership. Tell us about the other 3 books.
So the first book, I was so good at remembering names when I was working in that type of field when I was in sales. I could meet 25 people. All they'd say was, I'm Sue, I'm Barb. And I'd be like, oh, Sue, Barb. So I wrote a book, How to Remember Names. As soon as I wrote the book, I could not do it anymore because I'd started meeting so many people that my brain just turned into mush. But I tell people it's because pride is a sin and I was a little too prideful. So then I wrote, What's Your Excuse? Because I think this is something we have to think about as entrepreneurs. We can have an excuse for success or we can have an excuse for failure. And you get to choose that every single day. And one day when I was headed to a failure, I scribbled on a piece of paper with a black Sharpie, what's your excuse? Because I knew I was going to have to tell people this is why I failed. And when I decided I was going to have an excuse for success, and by George, I had success. So that was book 2. Book 3 was What's Next, which talks about being an entrepreneur. Book 4 was a little harder. It was about my husband who took what we call the fall with Jesus. He was 14 feet, his feet were 14 feet off the floor. He was hanging a crucifix. The crucifix fell, and my husband tried to catch it. He fell, crashed into a handrail, broke all the bones on one side of his body, was dead on the floor. But Jesus had broken off the crucifix, was laying in his arms, and he came back to life. I know, that's
I
kind
have
of
so many
scary.
questions right now.
Right. So he was in a doctor's house. Paramedics were 3 minutes away, and he's now with titanium on all of his ribs are titanium. So I wrote a story about that because that was a time when I paused my business. I didn't do any work for 9 months. I just sat beside the man I love and said, let's get you well, and heard his stories and wrote his stories. And that one's mostly for family and friends, but it's a cool love story about a man who was doing silly things in the woods with bears, like punching them on the nose when they got too close. You
Your
should,
husband?
yes, the bears didn't take him out. Jesus did.
Oh my gosh, woman, this is insane. I love it. I mean, I'm sad that your husband had that accident, but like, wow, I can't wait to read that one too.
Oh my gosh, it's fun. And it's like a 2 hour read. It's a quick read, but it's another thing. I think you guys, as entrepreneurs, sometimes we have to look at the people in our life and say, you're a pretty cool story, and just stop and listen to them and tell their story. That's a fun way to write your first book. A lot of my friends have done that, wrote it about somebody else.
Okay. Okay. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Okay, so that
And
was
so,
number four.
pardon me. Oh,
Number four.
that was number 4. That's called seasoned because my husband was going fishing after 3 days of not showering, I believe. Scruffy beard, cigar in his mouth, stepped into the river, and some young man looked up at him and said, "Wow, you're seasoned." So that's what we call him now, seasoned. And then the 5th book was Quiet Leadership, which is really, it's my favorite. It's the one that I love doing speeches from stage because there's stories about bears and how they can teach you leadership lessons. It's fun to tell those from stage.
Okay, so you're a wife, you're a mom, you're a grandma, you're an entrepreneur, you're doing all the things, you're traveling around, taking your business and you know this training now training opportunity to for these people to be part of it. So like how are you doing all the things? Like tell us some of your life tricks. Like how do you structure things? What are some things that you maybe are doing now that you weren't doing 10 or 15 years ago that you swear by? Like tell us some more tips and tricks from Karen's world.
Okay. So great question. First one is I taught myself how to sleep. After we sold our studio, I spent a year and a half learning how to sleep. And I think we get out of sleep when we're entrepreneurs and we have children at home and we have all the things. So now I sleep. It is precious to me. 8 hours of sleep every night, sometimes 7, but get your sleep. That's the first thing because you can't do what you're doing for the world if you don't sleep. The second one is imperfection has made my business and my life perfect. It
Mm.
does not have to be perfect. It just has to be done. So there are some dishes in my sink right now, but that's okay. They will get done at some point. Life does not have to be perfect. If I put out a book and it has a spelling error in it, it has a spelling error in it. It's going to be okay. So let go of that perfectionism. There is going to be somebody who says, "Oh, you spelled a word wrong," and you say, "Thank you for pointing that out," and you move on with your day. Imperfection. The next one is hired somebody to take care of my house. Somebody comes in and does the cleaning. My gosh, you guys, you're taking care of kids, families, all those things. You do not have to clean toilets. And so here's the switch, the brain switch there. Hiring somebody to do the things you don't want to do is a gift to them. It's not an expense to your business, it's a gift. They get to do what they're really good at so that you can go do what you're really good at. There are people who never want to speak on a stage, never want to talk to a client, never want to do whatever you're doing, but they want to clean your toilets. Let them do that. Yeah. I think those are the big things. And just keep doing it day after day after day. Just keep doing it over and over. Oh, here's the other thing. I wanted to tell you this earlier. When you're scared and you're thinking, should I be doing this? And how should I do this? You have to remember that right now there's somebody praying for whatever solution it is you want to offer in your business. You didn't think of this because it's just a silly idea. You thought of it because the world needs it. And if you know that, if every day you wake up and you think somebody needs what I'm doing, you're going to be much more graceful with yourself and you're going to get out there and get it done. So somebody's praying for what you're offering.
Okay, I'm trying to write that one down. So I'm saying go from should I do this to I must do it because someone is praying for it.
Yeah, truly. I just think that the ideas that we grasp onto, we're like, oh, I can't sleep because I have to do this. That
Yeah,
idea was put out there for a reason, and you're the one who caught it for a reason, and you have to respect that.
yeah.
So on the days when I'm like, this business sucks, because I think that a lot, um, and then somebody calls, I'm like, I love this business. On on the days when I think this business sucks, I think, look at what I've done.
Mm.
Look at how this was given to me. It was just a flash of inspiration. That was for a reason, and I have to honor that. So once a year, I write a letter to my business. This is another great tip for you guys. Write a letter to your business about this is what I'm going to do for you. This is what you mean for me. It really changes how you feel about your business.
Okay, okay. Someone asked you to repeat the email. I guess they want your email address to be able to get a book. What's
Great.
your email?
Okay. It's really, really easy. It's Karen,
Yeah,
spelled with a K, Karen, D like dog, 144.
yeah.
So Karen D Gross at Gmail.
Karen D 144.
Yep.
Karen G,
Nope, D. It's Karen D. My middle name is D. So
and then
D like,
gross at the end
yep. No, Karen D 144
at gmail.com.
at gmail.com.
Okay, so no gross in there. Okay,
And
perfect.
also, if they go to Canvas Creek Teams, they can just send it through there.
Yeah, you can send it through the website too, right? Okay, through the contact
Yeah.
section of the website. Okay, fantastic. Oh my goodness, Karen, this has been a juicy one. I'm so excited. Okay, so I've got some good notes to put into the podcast show notes to kind of cover off some of your big tips that you just gave us. I want to dig into the last one finally here before we wrap up. Um, Going from should I do this to I must do it because someone is praying for it. I mean, I can tell that you're a woman of faith. I figured that out, I think, before I even met you, just from seeing some of your stuff online. Do you feel like that's a bit of a secret weapon for you when it comes to like the battling perfectionism and to just getting stuff done? And like, tell us more about how faith has changed you as an entrepreneur for the better.
Mm. It's a really good question. When you read What's Next, you'll see there's a place in there where you use your hand for goal setting. And in it, you talk, so each finger is a prompt. So, who's the smallest person or the youngest person that you want to influence with your business? And what are you worried about with your business? And what do you love about it? All these different questions. And the finger on the, I have to stop and think, on the right hand where you have a ring is the finger where I say, how do you know it's going to be okay? What is your faith? And for me, that faith is first off that this was given to me as a flash of inspiration when I was desperate. I hit my knees and said, you better frickin' show me what you want because I don't know what to do. And that inspiration came through. And whenever I think we're in the middle of COVID, I don't know what to do, or there's more money going out than there is coming in at the moment, I just know that I'm going to be taken care of. There's somebody who walks beside me and has a hand on my shoulder saying, you can do this. Um, it's cool to know that that my business is blessed that way, that there is a plan and there's a reason for this. And every once in a while, when somebody gets it, when they're in the middle of a team building, and you see them get it, they get the big decision that they're trying to make, or they get bonded with their team. I feel the electricity of the Lord in our space, and it is incredibly powerful. I don't talk about that to businesses because
Yeah,
that's what we're built on,
yeah.
but the businesses who know, and they know that that's what's happening. That mantle of faith just wraps around them. That love, it's incredible.
It sure is. And I think a lot of people nowadays are using the word energy, and people are more open to feeling energy when you call it energy.
Mhm.
People will use the word, spirit and spiritual. But I too have a lot of faith, and faith is really the reason why I never quit running, like growing my business and just, being an entrepreneur, because I just had, like you said, that feeling like people were praying for the things that I was brewing up, the things that I knew I could provide. People were praying for it. People were desperate for it, and I felt called to create this stuff. And even in those moments when I was like, "Oh my gosh, should I go get a job like to supplement my income? Like, how am I going to make this work?" I was just like, "No, God will provide." Like, I had
Right?
to lean on that faith, and it definitely has worked for me. It doesn't mean that there haven't been lots of hard moments when a lot of other people would have maybe taken different messages and signs from it, but I stubbornly kept going, and so it's really good to meet someone else who feels like it's important to trust that there is a lot more going on, and we are part of it. But when we say no to those things that keep us up at night, like writing a book or like launching a new, course or webinar, when we say no to that thing that keeps coming into our minds or onto our hearts, we really are stopping ourselves from being able to answer the prayers of these people. And so I do encourage more women to get in touch with Karen, to, follow her and sign up for her email list so you can get her Monday videos. I know I sure am going to. And yeah, thanks Karen for coming into the fempreneur community and for just shining your light and sharing wisdom with us. It's been really, really valuable.
Oh my gosh, it's been valuable for me too. I appreciate so much getting to meet you and your people and being with your spirit today. Thank you for the work you're doing. It's so important.
Thank you. Okay, one last question before we hop off. I want to know what you would tell your 10-year younger self. So 10 years ago, Karen.
Oh.
Like, how many can I share?
I know. I know. I would say, well, first, stretch. You got to do your stretches, you guys. The older you get, the more you have to do your stretches. And the second one is, I think women are scared of aging. But I'll tell you, as soon as I went gray, the number, pardon me, allergies are bad. The number of 35 to 50-year-old male clients I got was incredible. So be authentic, go gray, be your authentic self. And being old does not mean you're going to be put out to pasture. It means that you're wise. You just have to take care of your energy, and you take care of your energy by doing your stretches.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I
Yeah.
added those to the Karen's juiciest tips list here. Oh my goodness. Wow. Okay, thank you so much, Karen. I look forward to having an off the record chat with you about some more things. And yeah, thank you for your time. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Keep doing what you're doing. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Bye.